Oh, it's just I'm really worried. I'm worried about our investment into sustainable homes and communities, and about financial inclusion and providing opportunities for our communities to learn about their financial well-being.
Yes, I can see why that's a worry. Hey, I know. Let's take a look at what United Welsh is doing about it. Woohoo!
Go for it.
So what work are you doing that best describes how United Welsh is investing in sustainable communities or providing opportunities for local communities to improve their financial well-being? And also, what challenges do you face looking forward?
Okay, well, in the support services team, we contribute to many of the objectives, but the particular corporate objective that we have a responsibility for is that of investing in sustainable homes and communities. And the outcome that we're working on primarily is to consolidate our position as a lead provider of supported housing. So to achieve that outcome, we've got several milestones and targets that we're working as a shared ownership project. What we're looking at is we have shared ownership that we provide on many of the different estates that we're working on now. Is there any way that people with learning difficulties could access that? And the initial view we've taken is that there's no real reason why we couldn't overcome any hurdles there might be in doing that. And obviously that means that we have more mixed communities and a sort of better opportunity for people with disabilities to access our mainstream housing, as well as when they need it, accessing more tailor-made projects. The first phase of our private sector leasing scheme for people with support needs, and we're running that in Caerphilly and in Blaen y Gwent. At the moment, the proposal is that at the end of the 3-year funded project, which we're in the final year now, we'll have 25 properties which we lease from the private sector that we will be housing people coming from supported housing, moving on from supported housing, or people who've been homeless and accommodated by the local authority into these properties. We'll be providing intensive housing management to make sure they can make a success of those tenancies, and also accessing support either from our own tenancy support team or from local authority generic tenancy support teams. One of the issues we are facing with this scheme though is that the Department of Work and Pensions are trying to make some savings on housing benefits, and there are irons in the fire to restrict the rents on these types of private sector leasing schemes. So I need to be doing some work with colleagues in finance to look at what the implication of that would be on our scheme. And it may be, for example, that 25 properties won't now be enough to make it stand alone and stack up, and we may actually be having to look at producing a bigger project there.
For me, the thing that best describes us investing in improving the financial well-being of our customers is the installation of 250 solar heating systems. This should reduce people's fuel bills by up to £200 per annum. And in addition to that, as part of the contract, we are using local apprentices and local contractors to install these systems. Challenges going forward really are that we know that people's heating bills are probably going to increase by about 20% over the next 3 to 4 years, and so it's going to become more difficult for people to afford their heating systems. This will also mean that there's a danger that people may not be able to afford their rent, or they will turn their heating down to such low levels the properties will see increased damp and condensation issues, which will cause us problems for repairs or reletting of properties. So it is vitally important that we continue to improve the heating systems and reduce costs for our tenants. One of the ways that we're looking to address the 2050 target is a scheme that we're hoping to start in Dinas Powys shortly, which is called the feed-in tariff, and we will put in photovoltaic systems on the roofs of all those properties in Dinas Powys. The challenges going forward is whilst it sounds, whilst it is great to be fitting in new technologies, it does depend on how people use them, and one of the things we have to get better at is explaining how these systems work so that people can see the full benefit of.
Feeling better?
Yeah, babe, but I still have concerns.
Hey, I know about sustainability, about communities and everything like that. Please interview me.
Clear off, clear off!
I don't want your sort. Shoo! Hobo.
Another side of development is being involved with the local boroughs in regenerating some streets that have fallen into dereliction really, and have become an eyesore in the community. Today we're in Ebbw on Church Street. Some of you may be aware of it, and I'm going to take you a walk through to show you the work we've done and the work we've planned to do. In front of you firstly is number 20, which is the iconic building of the street, the one we felt we had to acquire first because of the historical features and the famous nature of it. It was the old bike shop, and above it was the accommodation for the shop. At the moment we've got plans for 2, possibly stroke 3 flats on the top floor. On the lower level it may be sort of a studio based hall for rental purposes, because we'll be able to tap in to some more grant aid, fingers crossed, for a non-residential venture. And to this next of that is number 22, which again was 3 flats which are currently in for planning at the moment to be brought back into life. We've taken off the cladding off the front, and as I said, we're currently waiting on word from the planners, and fingers crossed we'll be able to start this one in the next 2 months. Go for it. These are the next 2 that we're involved with on the street, in the lower level of the street. The one to the right has been 2 stroke 3 flats. This one is again in for planning. We're going to regenerate number 34 and number 22 first. The one next door, number 36, with the gated front, we are currently have an offer on this one as well. Straight in front of you, you have the only completed unit, which was the start of this whole venture really. About 2.5 to 3 years ago with Helen Galsworthy and Barry Evans. It was 2 terraced units which were in equally bad state of repair as some of the other units you have seen. And this was basically brought back to life through a lot of partnership groups, and it's currently being housed by one of our partners at the moment, the EVAD Trust, and it's a brilliant example of what can be done when all the partnership groups work together, and fingers crossed we'll be able to bring the street back to life, just like the unit you've seen in front of you.
Wow!
Hello, this is the former steelworks site in Ebbw. The project group called The Works partnered with the BRE Wales, Blind County Council, the Welsh Assembly, Heads of the Valleys, and of course United Welsh. Were asked to run a competition to produce an exemplar sustainable house in Wales to showcase at the 2010 National Eisteddfod here on the steelworks site this August. The passive house in front of you, basically the whole mythology behind the passive house is that it delivers a house that requires minimal energy for space heating and hot water. The aim of the competition that we ran was to produce 1 3-bed home, which you can see in front of you, and 1 2-bed home, which will go to the left of the building in the next sort of 2 or 3 months. The major factors of the competition was obviously design quality and compliance with site design codes. It was going to meet codes for sustainable homes level 5, and it was obviously most importantly to use local sustainable materials to meet the passive house standard, and pretty much have a local supply chain as well.
So what about now?
Get in there.
In that case, I'm going to have to go old school.
In this instance, we're taking Hambury Church that's over 100 years old, and we're going to convert it into a library, a customer first centre, and a worship area. And this is in partnership with ourselves, United Welsh, the County Borough Council, Heads of Valley Funding, and the trustees of this church. The congregation at one time would have been 1,500 people, it had been full. It's down to about 20 of congregation. So what future does a building like this have?